Hello everyone, my name is West and this is PinoyBIX channel. If you are not my subscriber, please do consider subscribing and don't forget to click the bell button.
This is the multiple choice questions part 5 of the series in computer fundamentals as one of the electronics engineering topic. 201. It is needed to translate a high-level program into a sequence of machine instructions that performs the desired task. A. Assembler. B. Interpreter. C. Compiler. D. Debugger. Answer, C. Compiler. 202. Text editors and formatters belong to the area of computing known as blank. A. Software. B. Word processing. C. Compilers. D. Assemblers. Answer, B. Word processing. 203. The processor or central processing unit is A. The heart of the computer. B. Employed RISC. C. Communicates with the user. D. Supports floating point numbers. Answer, A. The heart of the computer. 204. Processors with more than 2 registers for arithmetic and logical operations are classified as A. Specific registered processors. B. General register processors. C. Accumulator based. D. Serial register processor. Answer, B. General register processors. 205. Which of the following is a non-volatile device? A. ROM. B. RAM. C. PLA. D. PLD. Answer, A. ROM. 206. With a blank, a processor can store data at I address and read back the stored information at any time. A. RWM. B. ROM. C. PLA. D. PROM. Answer, A. RWM. 207. The system program used to translate directly an assembly language to machine language is called A. Assembler. B. Compiler. C. Text editor. D. Debugger. Answer, A. Assembler. 208. A command to an ADC to start conversion. A. Social. B. EOC. C. PAC. D. Here. Answer, A. Social. 209. Speeds of modems are generally classified by the number of blank they can transmit. A. Cycles per second. B. Bits per second. C. Frequency per second. D. All of the choices. Answer, B. Bits per second. 210. High-speed modems transmit between A. 300 and 2400 bps. B. 2400 and 9600 bps. C. Between 2400 and 9600 bps. D. Between 300 and 2400 bps. Answer, C. Between 2400 and 9600 bps. 211. Low-speed modems method of modulation is usually A. Phase shift modulation. B. Debit modulation. C. Frequency shift keying. D. Amplitude modulation. Answer, C. Frequency shift keying. 212. Low-speed modems generally handle data rates between A. 3000 and 9000 bps. B. 300 and 2400 bps. C. 2400 and 9600 bps. D. 100 and 2400 bps. Answer, B. 300 and 2400 bps. 213. The most important memory element which is made of an assembly of logic gates is called A. Latch. B. Bistable multivibrator. C. Flip-flop. D. All of the choices. Answer, C. Flip-flop. 214. What is the normal resting state of the set and clear inputs in a flip-flop? A. low, high. B, high, low. C, high, high. D, low, low. Answer, A, low, high. 215. What will be the states of Q and Q prime after a flip-flop has been cleared? A, Q equal 1, Q prime equal 0. B, Q equal 0, Q prime equal 1. C, Q equal 0, Q prime equal 0. D, Q equal 1, Q prime equal 1. Answer, B, Q equal 0, Q prime equal 1. 216. When power is first applied to any flip-flop circuit, it is impossible to predict the initial state of Q and Q prime. What could be done to ensure that NAND latch always started off in the Q equal 1 state? A, apply a momentary high to preset input. B, apply a momentary low to set input. C, apply a momentary low to clear input. D, apply a momentary high to clear input. Answer, B, apply a momentary low to set input. 217. When a flip-flop is set, what are the states of Q and Q prime? A, Q equal 1, Q prime equal 0. B, Q equal 0, Q prime equal 1. C, Q equal 0, Q prime equal 0. D, Q equal 1, Q prime equal 1. Answer, A, Q equal 1, Q prime equal 0. 218. What two types of inputs that a clock flip-flop has? A, synchronous control inputs and clock input. B, asynchronous control inputs and clock input. C, pulsed control inputs and clock input. D, all of the choices. Answer, asynchronous control inputs and clock input. 219. The flip-flop can change only when the appropriate clock transition occurs. It is a condition called A, edge triggered. B, latching. C, clocking. D, pulsing. Answer, A, edge triggered. 220. It is the required interval immediately following the active edge of the clock signal during which the control inputs must be held stable. A, hold time. B, pulsing time. C, setup time. D, all the time. Answer, C, setup time. 221. It is the required interval immediately following the active edge held of clocks during which the control inputs must be held. A, setup time. B, hold time. C, pulsing time. D, propagation time. Answer, B, hold time. 222. What JK input condition will always set Q upon the occurrence of the active clock transition? A, J equals 0, K equals 0. B, J equal 1, K equals 0. C, J equals 0, K equal 1. D, J equal 1, K equal 1. Answer, B, J equal 1, K equal 0. 223. How does the operation of a synchronous input differ from that of a synchronous input? A, it works independently of the clock input. B, it is very dependent on the clock transition. C, it is mutually the same in function. D, not determined by ordinary operation. Answer, A, it works independently of the clock input. 224. The triangle inside the rectangle which is part of the IEEE/ANSI symbol at clock input. A, indicates the function of those inputs that are common to more than one circuit in the chip. B, indicates triggering on a NGT. C, indicates edge-triggered operation. D, all of the choices. Answer, C, indicates edge-triggered operation. 225. Which type of flip-flop is best suited for synchronous transfer because it requires the fewest interconnections from one flip-flop to the other? A. JK. B. T. C. Rs. D. D. Answer, DD. 226. The fastest method for transferring data from one register to another is the A. Serial transfer, B. Parallel transfer, C. Hybrid transfer, D. FIFO. Answer, B. Parallel transfer. 227. What is the major advantage of serial transfer over parallel transfer? A. Large interconnections between gates. B. One at a time transmission. C. Fewer interconnections between registers. D. Speed. Answer, C. Fewer interconnections between registers. 228. A 20 kHz clock signal is applied to a JK flip-flop when J equal 1, K equal 1. What is the frequency of the flip-flop output waveform? A 20 kHz. B 10 kHz. C 40 kHz. D 5 kHz. Answer, B 10 kHz. 229. How many flip-flops are required for a counter that will count 0 to 255? A2. B4. C16. D8. Answer, D8. 230. It converts a non-electrical physical quantity to an electrical quantity. A. Converter. B. Inverter. C. Transducer. D. Compiler. Answer, C. Transducer. 231. What does a computer do with the data it receives from an ADC? A. Stores the data. B. Performs calculation. C. Processes the data. D. All of the choices. Answer, D. All of the choices. 232. An actuator in the DAC. A. Performs conversion of digital data to its analog representation. B. Controls a physical variable according to an electrical input signal. C. Converts a non-electrical physical quantity to an electrical quantity. D. Performs calculation. Answer, B. Controls a physical variable according to an electrical input signal. 233. The maximum deviation of DAC output from its ideal value, expressed as percentage of full scale. A. Full scale error. B. Deviation ratio. C. Percentage error. D. None of the choices. Answer, A. Full scale error. 234. The time it takes for the DAC output to settle to within a half step size of its full scale value when the digital input changes from 0 to full scale. A. Settling time. B. Setup time. C. Hold time. D. Full scale time. Answer, A. Settling time. 235. Why are voltage DACs generally slower than current DACs? A. Because of the response time of the op-amp current to voltage converter. B. Because of its internal construction. C. Because voltage DACs have many heat losses. D. None of the choices. Answer, A. Because of the response time of the op-amp current to voltage converter. 236. What is the function of the comparator in the ADC? A. Tells control logic when the DAC output exceeds the analog input. B. Compares two parameters only. C. Addition and multiplication. D. Arithmetic operation. Answer: A. Tells control logic when the DAC output exceeds the analog input. 237. Meaning of checksum in ROMs. A. It is a code placed in the last one or two ROM locations that represents the sum of the expected ROM data from all other locations. B. Used as a means to test for leakage in one or more ROM locations. C. Prevents decoding glitches. D. Regulates ROM. Answer: A. It is a code placed in the last one or two ROM locations that represents the sum of the expected ROM data from all other locations. 238. What is meant by interfacing in a computer system? A. Synchronization of data information operation in a computer. B. Synchronization of digital information transmission between computer and external I/O devices. C. Connection of computers. D. Finding the fault in a network. Answer: B. Synchronization of digital information transmission between computer and external I/O devices. 239. Which of the items below is not one of the three major sections of an MPU? A. Timing and control. B. ALU. C. Register. D. Inversion. Answer: D. Inversion. 240. What is an operand address? A. The binary code that represents the operation to be performed by the CPU. B. The address of the data to be operated as the CPU executes the instruction called for by the opcode. C. A short abbreviation for the operation. D. All of the choices. Answer: B. The address of the data to be operated as the CPU executes the instruction called for by the opcode. 241. What device puts data on the data bus during a write operation? A. ALU. B. CPU. C. Keyboard. D. Accumulator. Answer: B. CPU. 242. Instruction mnemonic means: A. A short abbreviation for the operation. B. A binary code that represents the operation to be performed by the CPU. C. Technical terms sometimes added to an IC's description. D. Representation of a quantity that varies in discrete steps. Answer: A. A short abbreviation for the operation. 243. Arrival of a clock signal at the clock inputs of different flip-flops at different times as a result of propagation delays. A. Clock transition. B. Buffer address. C. Clock skew. D. None of the choices. Answer: C. Clock skew. 244. A circuit made up of combinations of logic gates, with no feedback from output to input. A. Sequential logic circuit. B. Combinational logic circuit. C. Clocked circuits. D. Asynchronous circuit. Answer: B. Combinational logic circuit. 245. A logic circuit that depends on the status of its selected inputs will channel its data input to one of several data outputs. A. MUX. B. DMUX. C. RAM. D. ROM. Answer, B. DMUX. 246. Add 74, base 8 with 1.1, base 2. A. 700, base 10. B. 70.5, base 8. C. 10101.01, base point 2. D. 75.4, base 8. Answer, D. 75.4, base 8. 247. An analog memory output circuit used to eliminate aperture error is called a MUX. B. DMUX. C. Track/store amplifier. D. Flip-flop. Answer, C. Track/store amplifier. 248. Which of the following is not a dynamic test instrument? A. Logic probe. B. Oscilloscope. C. Logic analyzer. D. Logic monitor. Answer, D. Logic monitor. 249. A translated program in machine language is called A source program. B. An object program. C. Machine program. D. Users program. Answer, B. An object program. 250. Perform binary subtraction to 6 1/4 and 4 1/2 would result to A1001, 01, B1, 11, C10, 11, D1, 00. Answer, B1, 11.
Sa mga hindi pa nakapag-subscribe, please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to click the bell button. See you on my next video.